All right, welcome back to another episode of the Unframe of Mind show. Tonight, Anthony and Daniel give their take on the Ahmaud Arbery story. Unlike other one-sided media sources, we bring a perspective that others may not be discussing.
Disgusting?
Discussing. Also, as we start to open up the economy and head back to work, what kinds of changes will we see? Daniel already has his marching orders. Stay tuned for all that tonight on the Unframe of Mind show.
You're listening to the Unframe of Mind show, the place to have the most mind-stretching, unprotected, intellectual intercourse of your life. Your hosts battle the forces of evil by lobbing fiery balls of truth, reason, and evidence over safe room walls.
All right, and welcome
loud.
back. Well, it's loud for us, but you look at the volume levels and it's fine.
Oh, I know. I was just teasing.
So, welcome back to another episode of the Unframe of Mind show, where we have uncomfortable conversations without a condom. I'm your host, Daniel Wagner.
Hey, Anthony Treywick.
And we're here today to discuss the Ahmaud Arbery story. I don't want to call it a case. I keep trying to call it the case, but, unfortunately, it's not a case because there's nobody to prosecute. But that being said, well, I guess it could be a case because I think they are still prosecuting the other guys right now.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
So I guess I can still call it a case and still be, correct. And I just realized I completely misspelled perspective, and I said the wrong word. It's like as if I've been busy all day. It's okay though. No, it's not. Basically, I've been I had to get up early this morning to do some additional work. I've got a buddy of mine that's using my help while all this other crap's going on, and I'm not busy doing anything. I've got some, he's got some additional help, so I've been helping him out. But that just makes my whole schedule just a big mess. So jumping right into it, I think I want to go ahead and start with the work thing first of all before we jump into the Ahmaud Arbery case. There was the lip smack. Did you hear it? Hey, welcome. Hi, guys. Team Teddy. Oh, come on. Give me a team bearded once in a while, folks. Just hook me up. I like your shirt. It looks good.
I like it, too.
Yeah, we should totally hire the designer for that shirt.
Or the guy that's on the actual picture.
Yeah, we should hire him, too. He seems like a great guy. All right. So I just got my marching orders to go back to work.
Yeah.
We don't start back up until the 22nd of June. All right, so I've got another month. It's going to be 2.5 months, roughly, a little over 2 months, something like that, where I've been off work. In my whole adult life, this has never happened. So this is like totally unprecedented, totally new, totally just like I'm glad for it. I look at the silver linings of it. I'm also terrified of what's going to happen in the future with the economy because of it. But just take it day by day. Take it what it is. Facts are, I'm going back to work finally. I will be.
You haven't really had this much time off since you were a kid, and during the school year when you're looking forward to that summertime off.
Yeah. It was interesting. For a moment or two, I kind of felt that same feeling I felt as a kid. That was just kind of like, all right, well, I've got the whole day ahead of me, before me. What am I going to do next? And it was just like I was just sitting there going, wow. It's been a long time. And this was nice because, I could go to my friend's house. I could go to do this. I could go to do that. Whatever the case is, I didn't have nowhere to be, nowhere to talk to, nothing, no one to report to. Like, this is.
I don't have to worry about setting an alarm clock.
Right. And just to be able to
nice.
stand out on the porch with a cup of coffee and just enjoy it and just breathe and just like, I'm eternally thankful and grateful for that. That has been nice. Just being able to appreciate and slow down and spend time with my children. That's been a huge thing. Me and my daughter I posted pictures of the apple pie her and I went and made. We took our time to do it right, and we did all the lattice work on top. Stuff that takes a lot of time, and it was nice.
That you normally wouldn't be able to get to do if you were still working.
Yeah, normally we'd be like, well, we've got about an hour. Let's go ahead and knock it out. We can hurry up and do it. Hurry. I got to be in bed because I got to be at work. Jason says maybe you weren't essential. I guess not. I'm not essential at all, apparently.
I still haven't heard anything from my company yet. They have us on furloughed until the end of July. the way it's looking right now, because we are a supplier for the automotive industry, I haven't received anything via email or phone call. So
yeah, well,
still waiting.
We've got a weekly phone call that our supervisor calls us and updates us on what's the newest information.
Right.
Mainly the phone calls are just to squash all the extra rumors that keep going around, because even though we're not in work, the rumors are still spreading like wildfire.
That's crazy.
There's even this, I don't know how that even happens. We've been off for this long and they're still talking about, hey, I heard we're going to get a bonus for, extra bonus check from this. Like, what are you talking about? He had to have been trolling. But as we head back into the economy opening back up, and as jobs start to open back up, the idea that we're going to return back to normal, you can just kiss that goodbye. We're just not going to return back to normal. It's not.
No, it's not going to happen.
So I've got my marching orders, and this is what's going to happen, essentially. I go back. They're going to give us a little, what they're calling a care package. It's going to have masks in it, a thermometer for us to take our own temperature before we come to work. It's going to have a hand sanitizer and all that crap in it. You know how many times I put hand sanitizer on since this all began? Not a damn single time. I don't screw with that shit.
Yeah.
It's what they told us is it is going to be mandatory to wear masks in the middle of summer in a building that's not air conditioned. We're going to have to wear these masks. No matter what, we got to wear the masks. And I asked him, I said, well, okay, I have some jobs that are at least 60 feet away from the nearest person. Yeah, there's a pretty good distance. It's definitely more than 6 foot away. Mm-hmm. I'm by myself. I'm in an area where I just have a lot of big parts and nobody can even get close because of it.
Right.
And it's like, do I have to wear my mask then? Yes, you have to wear your mask then. And the supervisor, he's like, yeah, I know, I get it. And he's not liking this either. He gets it.
He's getting it from the higher ups.
This is just what he's having to tell us. And I'm like, how many people are pissed off at him because he's the one delivering the message? It's like, this is not going to be good. Those masks ain't going to stay on.
No.
You're going to have people rebelling, and I have a feeling, and I hope this is the case, that our supervisors are going to handle it in such a way where they're like, we'll kind of look the other way. We're not going to be like super hard on you guys. But if the higher ups are walking around, go, put your mask on, stuff like that. I have a
kind
feeling.
of like what you do with your PPE. You see a lot of those people out there, especially in the workforce. Your cut gloves, your X-Acto knives, and everything else like that. People tend to do what they want to do, and a lot of the times they don't do it the proper way.
Right.
At least from what I've seen, and as far as what I do is concerned. But then as soon as your supervisors come down, it's, make sure your safety glasses are on and make sure your gloves are on and so forth. So, it's been going on for years. It's not going to be any different with a mask.
Right, exactly. So Phil says he works at the Apple store. They did the same for him. They get masks and all that stuff. Mm. Yeah, that's. I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be required to wear masks, and I just wonder how long it's going to be like that. People just are, like you said, they're going to do what they're going to do. Mm-hmm. And here's another thing that they're going to do for us to protect us.
For you.
They're putting dividers on the lunch tables. We have lunch tables that seat about 4 people each, and they're putting dividers between the table, and they're putting dividers between the chairs and everything. So basically, if you're going to lunch
like
in the break area, you're going to sit in your own little tiny cubicle. And he said they're using that black corrugated plastic. It's not even the clear plexiglass or anything.
So you can't wave at your friends.
You can't even, like,
from you?
They said you might be able to see the top of their head. But, I'm sorry. First of all, who's going to deal with that? Nobody. I mean, we're social creatures.
Yeah.
We've been away from each other for 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
People want to talk. They're not going to maintain social distance. They're just not going to. I'm sorry.
As long as we've been doing this show, dude, we've never practiced any like that.
You're going to be fighting people tooth and nail to get them to try to even get them to. And I'm sorry. If I'm a supervisor, still, it's my break area. It's my employees that I'm in charge of. If my higher ups come around and wonder why my employees aren't and why I'm not enforcing it, I'm going to take the hit for them. I'm just going to take the hit for them because I can understand. It's like, listen, punish me, write me up, do what you need to do. I'm not enforcing this. This is ridiculous. Yeah. Like, it's too much.
My thing is on this, either if you're going to open up all the way. Mm-hmm. If you're not, then what's the purpose of doing this? It doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, you should have done this from the very get-go. Instead of shutting down the country, we should have implemented things like this from the very get-go, as I said. I mean, this is something that I think a lot of us really didn't know what to do, how to do this, or how to handle it. So we did what our government thought was the best way to go about doing this. Now all of a sudden we want to reopen everything, but with stipulations. Well, that tells me you're not 100% confident about this virus. So why jeopardize people?
And not to mention the thermometers, that's doing you no good. If you're taking your temperature and you find out you have a high temperature, according to what we've been reading, you're not symptomatic for however long, a week?
Yeah.
That means you've already been to work for a week before it even showed symptoms. Right. It's already too late. Getting you out of the situation is not going to fix it or make it better or lessen the chances that everybody else is going to get it. Right. I mean, it's already been around there for a week.
Well, I think we're going to see once the country does open back up, and it is slowly open back up. Here in Tennessee, it seems to be opening up a little sooner than maybe most, states that have been heavily affected. Tennessee is one of those states where I was reading the reports that right now we are sitting, I think, right around the 350 mark of deaths. We have topped over, 10,000 cases, which 12,000 cases, 10,000 have recovered. Tennessee is on that curve. They flatten that curve. And that's one of the reasons why you're starting to see a lot of your bigger businesses, restaurants, and so, places like that starting to open back up. What I hope that there's a valuable lesson to be learned with this virus moving forward for our future and the way we handle things, the way the media handles things, because this, I know, laugh at me for it, but come on.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at the idea that the media is going to learn a lesson.
And I hope we as people, and I just don't mean here in the States, but I mean abroad, that we have learned, a lot from this. And I hope that what we can take away is that we don't necessarily have to shut down an entire country to be able to defend ourselves against a virus that we just don't know anything about.
Right.
I think we can find preventative measures to take to say, hey, we've dealt with this before. Maybe let's try doing this. I've talked about it and I mentioned it time and time before. You're compromised and you're elderly. Keep them at home. You're healthy individuals. Let them do what they need to do. This is something that should have been done from the very get-go. And I just think it was a lot of fear that our government wanted to do the right thing, but in turn, it almost kind of backfired on them.
Imagine that.
And
I've never seen any example of the government trying to help and it just causing more trouble. I like what Jason said here. Social distancing equals divide and conquer. I see that playing out in a lot of arenas, but I didn't actually consider it until you just said that, Jason. That I don't know. It seems like the perfect way to divide people. Literally, they're dividing us with dividers at work. Literally, they're telling people to stay 6 feet apart, and I'm seeing this in public. I'm seeing as I'm trying to walk around. I'm seeing people.
Think they're trying to deliberately.
I'm seeing people kind
divide
of
people.
And everybody's weary of each other, and they're looking at each other like side eyeing you, like you're gonna get too close. You got that Rona, man. You don't get too close to me. And I'm just walking around and I'm trying to be pleasant with people. I'm like, hey, good morning, how are you? I'm still saying hi. I'm still smiling at people, like I normally would.
Right.
Trying to bring some kind of normalcy to this. It's like, good Lord.
Well, we're not going to see normalcy for a very long time, if at all. I mean, this is going to become a part of our culture like it has over in China, because if you look at China, a lot of them were wearing masks well before we even thought about doing this over here, because they have such a high population, and to get sick over there is more probable. But I think what needs to happen here is that it's almost as if everybody needs to step back and take a deep breath. I mean, we're this far into it.
Why? So we can all catch the Rona?
I hope we do. So no, it's just, I think as the more of this kind of progresses, I was talking to Amber in the group, and she kind of said the same thing. She was like, she almost doesn't know what to believe anymore, and she's starting to realize it's not as bad as what it was made out to be. Now, she is a far lefty, that's in our Facebook group page. And, her and I had a discussion back and forth, and I think you saw some of it where, I told her, I said, maybe you're starting to understand that they kind of blew this way out of proportion. Now, with that being said, any death, you don't want to see anybody die from anything.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
It's not to suggest that.
Right.
It's just
that's still a part of life, no matter
Yes,
what.
I mean,
what we do. It's just a matter of trying to minimize the risk wherever possible,
right.
without totally losing our heads about it.
Right. And I just think that because this was so foreign to us, there was nothing in place for us to handle this. I mean, at all. And everybody thought they were doing what was in the best intent, or at least I hope. I don't know. It just didn't work out that way.
Absolutely.
So.
All right. So Jason says, maybe Anthony, but I think in a few years people will relax again and this nonsense will go away. Yeah.
It will.
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Puddin says, but people do die, right? It's part of life. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and something I just want to kind of touch a little bit more on that real quick, and we'll move on from it. But, I've never seen our society, if you want to flatten the curve on, diabetes or, heart problems and, things that are kind of way up there with the death toll, I don't see us flattening the curve on fast food joints,
Yeah.
We rank number one in the world with obesity.
Yeah.
Where's the flattening the curve on this?
And what they saying is one of the contributing factors to catching the Rona. The Rona.
The Rona.
It just keeps coming. It just flows so natural around here. What's one of the things they say though is obesity really heightens the effects.
Yeah.
Basically makes it worse for you. Heightens the chances that you're going to die because of this and the underlying conditions. And obesity is one of those on that list.
But what bothers me though is that we go to such extremes with a disease or virus we know nothing about to flatten that curve, but we know knowingly what causes obesity. We know what causes diabetes. We know what causes heart problems. And that's what really kind of upsets me about this whole situation. You have things already in place to prevent the high cholesterols, the heart attacks and the diabetes and whatever else. And we're not making that same effort that we're doing for a disease that we know nothing about.
Oh, matter of fact, a lot of people are going the exact opposite direction and saying, "Hey, it's don't body shame. That's bad.
Wow.
Fat's beautiful." Like, no,
it's very unhealthy, and to suggest otherwise, it's not.
Yeah, how many fat 90-year-olds do you know?
No.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's just that's a thought I just don't want in my head. No, my point is that
I say this because I love you, buddy.
I know. And somebody dealing with weight problems right now is not funny. But anyways,
it's that is. I mean, I want to talk about the elephant in the room here. Is like, yes, you are overweight. You need to lose weight, and we're talking about weight loss problems.
From something that I was not fully aware of what was going inside of me, obviously with my liver. And
this isn't quite the same as a fat guy giving diet advice.
Well, but it is also not a situation either where I'm like rigorously just putting myself through the ringer and going through fast food joint after fast food joint. I'm actually, for a while now, I've been eating healthy and changing my diet. It's just
that's good. That's good. Yeah.
But I'm actually trying to flatten the curve when it comes to my overweight. That's what I'm talking about here. Is that this country and the society has built itself around trying to. It almost kind of seems like a new hype. It's like, let's wear a mask so we can flatten the curve. I just really wish that people would get more on board with seeing the problems and the underlying issues that we've been dealing with for decades. Mm-hmm. And I don't see our government and I don't see our population or, our world as in general really trying to make that effort to do away with the bag of Doritos, do away with the fast food joints. But as long as there's money in play, that shit's never going to go away, and so it's one of the reasons why
I'm okay with the fast food joints being there. People can make their own decisions. But,
well, then everybody should be able to make their own decisions when it comes to wearing a mask.
I agree with that.
When it comes to wearing gloves and
100%.
Everything else. So, it's just the more of this time has gone by with this virus, the more I've kind of sat back and I said, and I've given this a lot of thought. It's just, I wish we had more of that approach with everything else that is such a high contributing factor to the death toll that's in this country, or the obesity rate that is currently so high here in the States. We just don't do it. So,
all right. So speaking of You know what? That was a terrible segue. So I'm just going to just jump right into the next topic. I think
We need to get you
I'm
to work on this.
like, wait a minute, wait a minute.
Yeah.
No, so let's head on over to the Ahmaud Arbery case. This is something that I think it was last week or so we were kind of talking about what we were going to discuss for the show, and that was one of the topics that came up in brainstorming, and it's like, well, we want to wait. That was kind of what we had settled on. We want to wait, see what the facts are, wait and see what comes out, because it was still kind of a fresh thing. We had opinions, and the opinions, I'm sure, have changed to suit the new evidence, as it should. But I wanted to offer maybe a different perspective on this that a lot of people aren't, because a lot of people are talking about this race-driven war, this idea
I'm not buying that.
this idea
I'm
that
not
it
buying
was
that shit at all.
well, yeah, and I'm not
sorry,
either. I'm not either, and I'm starting to notice a lot of people aren't either. Even the hard leftists, that we talk to, they're even recognizing the way that divide and conquer shit is used against us, and they're not buying it either. They're not buying that this was a race-based issue, and that's great. I love that. Right. Some are still. The media still comes out and tries to put forward the story before they have all the facts that, it was a black guy and two white guys, automatically hate crime, no matter what. No facts needed. The media is just on it right like that. And I just want to call to everyone's attention. I keep calling this every time we have a major election cycle come through.
Yeah, this shit pops up.
We all of a sudden, the prevalence of hate crimes just goes up all of a sudden.
We'll see it probably with immigration too.
The actual numbers,
back up,
the actual numbers don't change, but just all of a sudden the media is suddenly wanting to report on it, because they're wanting to get people divided and get people in a tizzy and get people pissed off and get people out there wanting to vote for mainly leftist issues. I mean, the media, let's face it, is mainly controlled by left-wing sources and left-wing people, and to get people divided and get all in their feels about this issue and get people thinking that there's this giant movement of white people against black people, or whatever the divide and conquer narrative is of the day, they are super fast on making sure that is what is mentioned. They make sure to show the pictures that are needed to manipulate people, to get people in their feels. Like I said, we've seen cases in the past where they'll actually take a picture of somebody who's Hispanic and color correct the photo to make him look more white just to fit their narrative. Right. That was having a brain fart on what the case was, which one that was. I've seen so many of them.
Was it recent?
I think it was Trayvon Martin.
Yeah, it was Trayvon Martin.
Yeah, where they took the perpetrator. What's his name?
I can't remember.
Zimmerman.
Yeah,
he was name Zimmerman. Yeah, they took his
didn't
picture.
Look white enough. Is what it was.
And you can look at a side by side of the original photo versus what the news media actually presented to us, and see that they took and made that picture more white to suit a narrative. Yeah, you got to be really careful about this, guys. You see this all the time, and you got to wonder. You got to ask yourself. Give it some time. When you first see these stories and people are out there going, "Oh man, race based anything." This was clearly race driven. This was clearly a couple racist, shooting a black kid. Oh, and that's another thing. I almost missed that one. They call him a kid. They did this a lot, because if you call him a kid, it sounds worse. Even though Trayvon Martin was 18, 19 years old?
I don't remember.
Not a kid. Still a young man, obviously. Yeah. But they, for the longest time at the beginning of that story, I thought Trayvon Martin was probably 12 or 13. Just based on, because I hadn't seen pictures, I hadn't looked into it yet. Right. This was earlier on in our career here doing this. And just the way the media was talking about it, I thought he was like a 12-year-old. I thought this was a kid. Yeah. Okay? So when they say Ahmaud Arbery is a kid and you find out he's 25 years old, it's not a kid. But they do it that way on purpose to get you to frame it in a way that you're going to accept the story, so that you will be angry about it and you'll just kind of bypass your critical thinking abilities, go straight into the emotions.
Well, and this is something that if anybody has been watching the show long enough, I preach this religiously. nobody applies the 10-second rule here when it comes to your emotions with certain topics that are either race-driven or even politically driven. Everybody wants to apply the 3-second rule, which you automatically become emotionally driven just by the headline of the article in which you're reading. So what happens is when you read that article, it's already got you fired up. When you actually go to read the article, you're going into that article already mad. You're going in that article already pissed off. So when you go to read it, you're going to read it in such a way that's how you've perceived that article to be. Now, the problem I have with this case, and something that I've been telling people from the very get-go, I don't think this was racially driven. And the reason why I say that is I think that we have, as a society, we are built to understand that there is good versus, there's good, good versus evil, right?
Right.
I have not seen anything that would suggest that the two gentlemen that did what they did, there's no evidence that I'm seeing. And if there is, find it for me and send it to me, and I'll be glad to read it. But there's nothing that would suggest that these two guys that killed him were racist. No. It's not okay. This is where you have to layer this whole situation. And what I mean by layer, you have to understand that there are different elements to what happened in this situation. Do I think that it was race driven? No, I do not. And I've been on that position from day one. And the one thing I've learned is that when people get emotionally driven on social media, everybody tends to hop on that bandwagon. Mm-hmm. Everybody was like, I'm going to run for him or jog for him and all this and all that. And I'm sitting back and I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to jog for this dude. Not because he's black, not because of what had happened. I want to wait until I see everything that's laid out on the table, because the one thing I learned from the Nick Sandmann situation is that too many people, the media themselves, jumped way on this too early.
Oh, yeah.
Before anything came out, then guess what? You saw lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit against every single major media corporation when it came to Nick Sandmann, and he won.
Yeah, that was crazy to watch. Oh my God, and that even got a number of right wing people that I respect that they fell for it too, and they even came back the next day and said, "Oh my God, we
didn't learn from this. We did not learn from this, and I'm not saying." This is not to take away from a young man, that was shot and killed. Okay?
Yeah.
I'm not saying this.
I hate that we have to say that, but yeah, none of this is to take away from that. This is not anything to do with...
The tragedy of a human life is always a bad thing, and that's what people need to understand. That
and we're definitely not trying to justify what the McMichaels did.
No. What we do and what we've always tried to do is we try to give people different perspectives. We like to try to revisit things that we've noticed in the media years prior to understand, hang on a second, before you even say anything on social media, before you say anything to your friends and family, give it some time.
Yeah.
Just sit back, let the cards play, and see where they may fall.
We're sitting there going we've seen this show before.
I know, and you and I had this conversation. It's like, oh, shit, here we go. Everybody's going to jump on these bandwagons. Everybody's going to do these marches. Everybody's going to do this jog. And I'm like, please just wait. Mm-hmm. Just take a deep breath like everybody else. Now, I can understand the purpose of the prosecution not actually pressing charges against the two individuals that killed him, and taking as long as they did. That's a separate entity all on its own. We can talk about that another time. Yeah. But what I want to focus on...
That's a whole another section
right,
of the story.
That's again, layer and layer of this whole case.
Many layers. Many layers of failure, actually. And I do want to get... I'm sorry. Go ahead and finish your thought. But
no, I just want people to understand that, this, for us, this has never been about race. We are dissecting the way the human behavior tries to justify every situation when it does come to race, meaning that we automatically want to assume that this is a white versus black thing. I thought we were better than this. I thought as a society that we could bring to the table some actual thought process to understand that if we jump on this too quickly, it's going to burn us. We've seen this. I mean, we keep seeing it time after time, and nobody's learning anything from it. Nobody.
Yeah, and if it helps, I'm going to post a link in the comment section for you guys. This is a fake news guide that I put together a long time ago. The fake news guide, Your Armor Against the Media Cesspool.
Right.
And it goes over. It's I've had a lot of great feedback from this. It goes over a number of different things.
It's long, but it's worth reading.
Yeah, it goes over a number of things to look for, stuff to kind of consider before you head into, like when you're trying to find, like a lot of people ask, okay, what's a good news source?
Right.
Who should I trust? Why should I trust them? Well, I never want to give anybody a name. I never want to say, oh yeah, we'll just go to this website. Because as soon as I say that, they may publish some shit that completely goes against what I said, and I look like an idiot.
Right.
But what I do, it's the do. What I do with this article for you guys is I set up some things for you to consider, to look at, to figure out. Okay, what kind of things am I going to look for, and what kind of red flags am I going to look for to try to avoid getting duped? Yeah. And I think it can help a lot of people. If y'all could share that out for me, that'd be awesome, because I think it is a very useful tool that I continuously update whenever I kind of get some new ideas, or if I see a new tactic that the media is using to try to dupe people, I'll add that in, stuff like that. So definitely check that out and let me know what you think about that. But what I wanted to talk about, the little different perspective, what I don't think I'm not seeing anybody really talking about this, is the fact that when we saw the other videos come out of Ahmaud Arbery, you see the different videos coming out, and it kind of establishes a pattern of behavior. This kind of bullheadedness, very aggressive. Combative is a great word. And I would say I even got into a discussion with somebody on the Facebook group about whether he was being erratic or not, about the 2017 arrest video that we saw. And it's like, I made the point, and I think this is a pretty strong point, is that it really doesn't matter what we perceived his behavior as. What you might have seen his behavior as erratic, I might see it as not erratic. Somebody else might have been like on the fence. What really matters in that moment is that officer's perception of what his behavior is. If he feels that he's being erratic, according to the laws and according to the way everything just happens to be written, he's well within his rights to act accordingly. Right. So it really matters what his perception of it was, not what our perception of what we thought he thought it should have been. Does that make sense?
Something like that.
Yeah, something around there. Like, and it's easy to step back and do that, but that's not the point I want to make. The point I want to make is about why is this kid so combative toward law enforcement, or toward, why is he behaving in this way? Why was he? Because you see this time and time again. Because
you have some people who believe that black people are targeted.
Right. So what I was. Oh
no, I was just going to say, it's hard for me to feel that way when you're parked in a grassy, I call it the grassy knoll in that one video. You're parked next to train tracks. You're away from everybody. You're out by yourself, and like the cop even said, you're parked out here in the middle of grass. And
it's not exactly
it's not a place where a normal car would park.
Right.
So
and he did make the point that when I see people parked out here, it's usually because some drug deals are going down. I'm just making sure everything's cool, seeing what's going on. I don't know. I don't want to make a judgment on who is right, who is wrong. What I'm interested in
is common sense.
What I'm more interested in is the fact that this kid, more than likely in the black community, you're growing up being told all the time, cops are to be feared. They will kill you. Like, not they might kill you if you behave a certain way or anything like that. Right. It's kind of like we've got this narrative that keeps kind of cycling through the community, this narrative that says the cops are the bad guys. They are there to kill you. You do not want to get pulled over by them. And like you hear all these stories that keep getting put out about this person did this and got shot, and this person he was minding his own business. He was out for a jog and he got shot. I'm just trying to brainstorm different examples, doing a terrible job of it, but you get the point. And it's like, if I'm being fed all this information my whole life about how bad this is, and a cop pulls me over, I'm going to be scared. I'm going to be incredibly nervous. I'm going to be incredibly, maybe even angry. I'm going to act out in such a way that kind of shows my aggression in some way, that like, I'm not cool with this. This is not, I don't think I'm going to have the wherewithal to be calm and collected and reasonable and rational and just be like, okay, yeah, I can see where this might look suspicious. I get what he's out here doing. That's cool. officer, I'm just out here working on my wraps. He doesn't even have to let him search his car, whatever the case is. And you see that time and time again. Now, what I want to point out is you get it from both perspectives. Okay, so the cops also see the news media stories. Oh, these belligerent young black men, they're crazy. They're going out shooting people, murdering people en masse and everything else. And of course, you've got them going through all the training and everything else where they're trained to identify these situations and react a certain way. They know if I don't react, it could be my life.
Right.
If I don't react within a certain amount of time, I'm sure they go through, see all the training videos of X example, Y example of why this officer did this and this officer, is no longer here with us anymore. Oh, God, I don't want to be like that officer. I got to make sure that I'm going to be on my P's and Q's, and I'm going to make sure I'm going to react if need be. So you got these two sides coming together in a very tenuous, very
combustible situation.
That would be a great way of putting it. Not the word I would have chose, but I like it.
Well, combustible meaning that you got the cop. It's very hard to suppress your own behavior and your own emotions when somebody is approaching like he did towards that cop.
Yeah.
Because your first initial instinct is to protect yourself. I don't give a shit if you're trained or not.
Right.
If you go back and watch the video, he actually does approach the cop very aggressively. Well, why would you do that? The cop was doing nothing more than standing at the rear of his cop car, just trying to get information on his ID.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you see him come walking up and being combative. Well, guess what? The cop gets an attitude. He's got an attitude. It's very much a situation that does become combustible, meaning that it's just all going to finally come to a head because they're not going to deal with it. And as you said, they got that moment, that split second where they have to make a decision. We saw that later into the video where one of the cops had tried to use his taser. It misfired. It never went off. And some people have more of a tolerance to that behavior and can sit there and try to work through it. Whereas we saw the other cop that came later into the video, he wasn't going to put up with it. He pulled out his taser.
I thought he just turned it on.
No, it never went off.
He actually tried to fire it?
Yeah, it even said it in the report.
Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't know. I didn't read that. Okay. But
so
I only got so much time to read the details. But, fast forward to, 2020.
Okay.
Or whenever it was that this situation went down with the two McMichaels. What was it? Travis McMichael and the other kid's name. I got it written down. But I forgot. Anyway, so you fast forward to the situation. You got a couple of guys that want to be vigilante badasses, as far as I can tell, that they want to try to stop this kid that's been, from their perspective, coming in around the neighborhood, scoping out the place, maybe even stole some stuff. I don't know. They don't know.
I've gone jogging before in the past, and I've even walked. Just trying to get my steps in. I've never in my entire life, anytime I've jogged or was running, just saw a house and said, oh, I'm going to stop real quick in the middle of my run or jog, and I'm going to go check out this house that's currently under construction.
And definitely not as many miles away from your home as he was.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that part of it doesn't stand up to me, as far as I can tell. He was in there looking. I don't know what he was doing. It doesn't really matter. What matters is the perception of these guys that were going to put him on citizen's arrest. They felt like he was doing something.
Right.
Potentially illegal, some potential felony that he was committing, and they were going to put him under citizen's arrest. Well within their rights to do so. Now,
according to Georgia law, but they have to be caught in the act in order to make that citizen's arrest.
And as far as I know, they thought he was in the midst of a commission of a crime.
Well,
I don't know. Here's the thing, though. If I'm Arbery, rather, I keep trying to call him Armory. If I'm Arbery, and these two guys are confronting me, and I don't know if they had initially confronted him with the gun, or if they were just kind of had it with them, or I don't know what the situation was.
Okay,
That's
if
the
you
problem.
were actually jogging,
but if somebody comes up with a gun, okay, and I was actually, if I actually was jogging, they come up to me with a gun, or they come up to me saying, hey, we're placing you under citizen's arrest, or whatever the case is. We saw you in there doing that. I'm sorry. I'm stopping. I'm going to try to explain it to him. Hey, listen, I was just jogging. Do what you need to call the police. That's, nobody's firing at me. They're just trying to put me under citizen's arrest, which means they have an intention to call the police and wait for them to arrive. And I'll explain it to the police.
Right.
If they got no evidence on me, that's cool. But what was it that got him so nervous? What was he scared of?
He charged them. I mean, that's what doesn't make any sense.
From how far away? A pretty far distance away, from what I understand. It wasn't like he had the gun in his face, had him backed into a corner. At any point, he could have walked away, or he could have just explained what he was going on, or there's so many different ways. Again, hindsight's 20/20. I understand that, but you gotta figure. Okay, if the story was true about what he was actually doing, is that a rational way to act in that moment? If somebody thinks that you were doing something wrong.
I think the only reasons why he died the way that he did is because there was a struggle for the gun.
Right. That's what initially
he charged.
Ultimately happened.
He charged the man that had the gun. They were fighting over. They were fighting over the firearm, and the other guy got the gun back and he shot him. Some people on social media claim that self-defense because he was trying to go after his firearm. Now, I can understand that.
The moment that somebody comes at you and tries to take your firearm from you,
I'm going to try to keep it and I'm going to shoot you.
Yeah, at that point, that point, all bets are off. All that other shit,
I don't give a shit
quite
if
frankly,
you're
doesn't
Asian,
matter.
black, Mexican, or white. You come after me and I've got a firearm. Now,
none of the other shit matters at that point.
It doesn't matter, but it does matter because this is the way it's been painted. It's been painted as a racial situation. Mm-hmm. Therefore, when you try to have this open conversation or dialogue about the situation, you tend to lose friends. You tend to lose, people, even family members don't agree with you. And that's fine. But again, to me, from the very get-go, this wasn't race-driven. I'm sorry. I won't believe it. If you can prove to me otherwise that these two individuals were out to purposely get him and it was straight up a racial thing, I would love to see that evidence to suggest otherwise. But if not, shut up. You don't have a leg to stand on. Mm-hmm. If it is, I'll retract my statement and I'll apologize. Yeah. But until you can prove that information, I don't want to hear it. I just don't.
Yeah, like, for example, in a case of a terrorist event with some Muslim who says whatever the hell they say, Allah, fucking, I can't even think. Allah Akbar, or whatever the hell they say.
Something, I don't know.
Whatever the thing is that they always say that they're saying.
Camel.
I don't know. Wow. Whatever it is they say, then you can take that and say, yeah, there was a lot of reports of them saying Allah Akbar, and then they hit the button, or whatever the case is. Yeah. You can comfortably say, reasonably say, okay, this was religious-based attack. Mm-hmm. This was a religiously driven, ideologically based attack. Sure, that's easy. But unless you've got some kind of like some writing that the guy did, or something that he said in the moment that was that was witnessed, or something to that effect, or maybe he has a past history of race-based type behavior, racist type behavior, then maybe you can say this was a race-driven crime. But even then, that's going to be incredibly difficult to prove.
I just think it was two dudes that were trying to put a stop to the burglaries.
Wow, that's a hard one for you, isn't it?
I need my damn drink.
The burglaries.
My headphones keep cutting out, too.
All right. Jason says that's why we have shows like yours. Need some outlet for the free thinkers. Yes, absolutely. The people that aren't going to sit there and automatically take one side or the other and go, yeah, well, this guy did this, and we're totally on this other side.
Well, I get sometimes
you got two people, you've got Arbery and you've got the McMichaels. Both sides both sides could have handled the situation way differently,
but it didn't. Unfortunately, they didn't.
Should have handled the situation way differently.
I agree.
And it's like you can look at the faults of one side without automatically saying the other side was correct in what they did. Like, that's not what we're saying. We're saying both sides royally fucked up here.
Yeah, this was a mess from the very get-go. I think the guys waiting for this guy that was jogging, I think that was a mistake. They should have called 911, which apparently they did. Let the cops do their jobs. Yeah. If this becomes an issue within the neighborhood itself, then find other preventable ways to make sure it doesn't happen again. But to take matters in your own hands, you have to understand that if something goes down, something goes south, there is this possibility where you might end up in prison for a very long time.
And it wasn't like McMichael didn't know Arbery ahead of time. Like, as far as I am to understand from what I'm reading, is that he already has a past history with him, knows that he's already got a past criminal record, knows that he already has a history of doing things like this. So it's and he was an ex-cop, so he kind of knows some of the protocol. He knows some of the way to behave in these situations. So I can imagine that a lot of what he's been painted out to be probably isn't true.
Yeah.
I don't know. But the likelihood that he was just some vigilante random dude seeing some random black dude coming out of a construction site and just decided to go after him, that's just not the case. There's so many more layers on this that need to be pointed out.
Right.
And I do have empathy for both sides of this equation as well. Just like the cop incident, and again, just like the way, Arbery was probably grown up hearing all these stories. I even see somebody posted that, he knew that he would be a folk hero in this, that he would be some kind of a hero, held up as a hero in this. I don't think that was really the case, because that would have required a lot of forethought. But at the same time, that the media is going to spin it a certain way. If I'm a black guy confronting a couple white guys with a shotgun, the media is going to spin it a certain way.
Right.
And you know this.
I know this. Everybody else that's thinking for themselves know this. My main issue with situations like this, it's not so much the case itself, it's how it was handled by the media, and it's how it's handled by those of us that listen to the media, that read the articles. That is that is my starting point with this whole situation, as it's been in the past with many others. I dissect it from the very beginning. And now I know, especially from the Nick Sandman situation, you have got to be careful, and you have got to sit back, and you got to let this thing play out.
Yeah.
Then make a wise decision or choice to speak up and say something, because then you can back everything that you've got to say with facts. And it's not all predetermined because you think all of a sudden this was a race issue. Well, I'm sorry, I don't believe it. And the more that I'm hearing the stories and I'm hearing people talk about it, they're starting to understand this. And I'm thinking, well, that's not what you said about 2.5 weeks ago.
Yeah. Now imagine if my starting point is, okay, this was a race issue, now what? I start there. Imagine how much differently that timeline looks, the way we handle it, the legislation we push, the types of laws we enact, the way that we handle these things in the future. If that is my starting point, that's going to look way different than, okay, this was a couple of jackasses with checkered pasts that were coming against each other, and we're looking at all the facts, and now what do we do? Now how do we prevent this from happening in the future? Right. Like, your starting point really matters.
Yeah, and that's what really I keep telling people is you got to get away from the news outlets, and it's one of the reasons why we continuously keep doing this, show, is because we have become, I feel like we're constantly having to play against the narrative here, because we see all these stories that come out, and then when we actually get on here and we put in our 2 cents, as do many others that do podcasts, we're telling people, look, no, stop.
Yeah, we've seen this before.
Stop listening to your news. Stop reading the papers. Stop believing this shit. The only thing that we're telling you is to arm yourself with just the simple facts of just letting this thing build. See what comes of it.
Yeah.
Don't react to it right away. You're going to get yourself in trouble. You're going to look like a racist. You're going to look like an asshole. It's gotten
to the point that I think you and I, we could sit here and see a brand new news story come out, and it's just based on what we already know and how we know the media is going to spin it. We can pretty much just go ahead and just spell out what the next couple of weeks going to look like.
Yeah.
We're like, okay, so they're going to spin this like a race narrative. A lot of people are going to get pissed off. There's going to be big marches.
Yeah.
We're going to find out that all of it was bullshit, that it was completely wrong from people that actually go in and do the actual journalism on the story. And then we're going to find out that it's just going to suddenly disappear and nobody will talk about it ever again.
You know why? Because we don't have a narrative. We never had a narrative.
Yeah.
Since the beginning of this show 4 years ago, there's never been a narrative. The only narrative that we hold or that we possess is just to educate people on the simple fact, breathe. Take your time before you do anything. Count to 10, not 3. Emotional driven people will only count to 3. You're already pissed off about the situation. You go into reading the article pissed off about the situation. You then form your opinion based off that angry.
If you even click the headline link.
Right. I mean, if you even click the headline link, but still then you're still pissed off. and then your opinion is based off of anger, and you haven't had time to process this. And that's where I start off with all these situations. People have got to learn to slow down. It has to slow down, because as long as the media keeps doing this, they're going to keep sending this shit out, and then all of a sudden, it's not our government that's keeping us divided. It's the media that keeps us divided.
Well, the media is the government's wing.
Well,
they're the propaganda wing.
You get what I'm saying. So.
That's a whole other episode for sure. So, I think we've talked about as much as I'm willing to talk about this.
Yeah,
I think
I
think we give people a lot to chew on here, because there's something different that we bring, and I hope there's something different we bring that people come for. And in that we try to offer a different perspective, and I really hope that the perspective of looking at it through Arbery's eyes and what he must have been thinking, and what was all his programming coming up, what was his education coming up, what was it that caused him to act the way he was, might give some insight into, it's figure out why people act the way they act, what drives them to do it. And I think you might be able to actually understand this a little bit better about what they must have seen from the other side of the equation.
And I hope this conversation, the next time people look at a news story, I hope they remember this show. I hope they remember to not be so quick to get on that that tangent of wanting to spew out something hateful and hurtful because you're emotionally driven by a headline. Don't go into that article feeling that way. Don't do it. Just don't.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
It's like don't just don't dump into that pit of fire.
So we've got a segment of the show called "What the Fuck Is That on Wish," and we've got a really good one for you tonight. It's I legit don't know what this is. And,
you didn't run the intro.
You guys are gonna like this. So let's knock that out, and then we'll wrap it up for the night. It's been a pretty good little show tonight. All right. So which button was it, Anthony? I think it was this one. What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck is that on Wish? And tonight on What the Fuck Is That on Wish?
I literally saw this, and that's what came to my mind is what the fuck is that?
This is amazing. Now, I'm going to try to describe this as best I can, and what I'm seeing is an illustration of two dudes. They're completely naked, and they're holding they're like, you know how you get out of the tub and you got your towel wrapped around your waist? Well, they're both standing facing each other with their little towels held open, where it's hiding their junk from the camera, but they're looking at each other's, and one of them's going MM ... in a little bubble.
But what is this on? It's not on a t-shirt. I don't know what it's on though.
That's what it's $9. I don't know if it's advertising the towels, or if it's just a design
or
of some sort.
Is it actually a towel of this?
Don't know what we're actually buying. That's the problem. When you have a picture of your product, it should probably be pretty self-evident immediately what it is I'm purchasing. From a marketing perspective, this is interesting because it makes you want to click it. Like, what are they trying to sell us? But from just a clear communication standpoint, like, it's totally confusing. I don't know what I'm looking at. I don't know what I'm trying to buy.
Sometimes I just want to buy this shit just to see what it actually is.
Like, what comes
I
in
think
the mail?
we need to say, hey, I tell you what, if you guys want to fund the show, for $3 a month, and we get about 20 people at $3, a pop, we can start buying stuff like this and get it on the show and find out what the fuck it actually is.
So, am I going to get a couple of dudes in towels come to my home for $9?
I can talk to Ricky Roberts and get that shit done for free.
Oh yeah, that'd be all right. I think we can make this happen. This is fun. Anyway, all right. So we're going to wrap it up from that point and head on into next week's show. Apologize for not having a Sunday show. Some extenuating circumstances came up, and we were not able to do that. Not a problem. It's not like we've really been having a good track record of doing this the Sunday show just yet, but we'll get the hang of it here. We'll get it worked out.
I want to run something by you, and I asked just before we close out. I want to run something by you.
All right.
I talked to a friend of mine recently about what happened in a personal situation that I've been dealing with. Do you think
it's the new Snuggie, says Jason?
Do you think that you probably know what I'm talking about, where I'm going with this conversation? Do you think that's something that we ought to discuss on the show without naming names?
I'm sure we could. Yeah. So I think we could have talked about that after we wrapped up the show and quit wasting these people's time.
fuck you then.
All right, y'all.
All right, guys.
Y'all have a good night. You've been watching another episode of the
watching.
Unframe of Mind show. If you want more of our content, head over to unframeofmind.com, and you can find all of our links there, merchandise, social media links, a bunch of content, and of course the fake news guide. You can go check that out over there. I posted the link in the comments if you can't find it, but I'll try to make sure to add it to the description as well for people who are watching this later in the fact.
We appreciate all the love and support that you guys show us. So we appreciate it.
All righty. And until next Wednesday or whenever the hell we decide to do a show for you, have a good one.
All right, y'all guys. Have a good one.
All right. So